Good morning. We'll begin by sitting. Hello, Esther. We'll begin by sitting. Do make sure you have loads of stuff around you. So whether that's books or yoga blocks, yoga belts or ties or dressing gown belts, sandbags, bags of rice, bolsters. If you do not have a bolster, maybe you probably have a pillow, and you could perhaps wrap the pillow in a towel, and then you've got a bolster. So making yourselves comfortable. Esther, we've met before, haven't we? Yes. And you know my partner, don't you?
Yes, I'm a yoga teacher at the LBC, generally.
I thought I recognised the name.
Yeah.
So coming to sitting, and sit. So let's come back to being conscious. So this being the theme. Sit in a way that works for you. So sometimes I might talk about a shape that is sustainable. And as Rebecca is beautifully modeling, it looks like Rebecca's just stripped her home of blankets and cushions. So sitting, that's a good move, Rebecca. Get as many things as you can. So sitting in a way that works well for you. John, that's what I said, your pandemic plus was growing a beard. I've never seen you with a beard before. In a way that works well for you. A shape that is sustainable. So that means we have to apply the conscious mind. It's like, so it's not like, oh, this is what I came across a new word recently. I am so excited. I'm wondering, Kathy, I might have said this last week. So if I did say this last week, Kathy, you can just cover your ears with your hand. So I came across a new word. So as some of you know, I'm a big fan of words, and I love words. And someone was on a course with me, and she said, masturbation. I had to pause for a moment. Is she really saying what she's saying? Because it's like, it could mean something else. But yeah, masturbation. And it comes from someone like Albert Ellis, who's done some like work that then became CBT. Some of you will know cognitive behavioral therapy. So this is, I must sit in this way. I'm like, why? Lulu, have you heard masturbation before? It's a great word, Lulu. I love it. So let go of masturbation. Drop that kind of the shouldist mind. Oh, I should do this. Like, I've been meditating for 20 years, so I should sit in Padmasana. And then next thing you start, oh no, I have to go and see the knee surgeon. So letting go of all of that, really kind of conscious, paying attention. You know, what works well for your body this morning? Maybe the legs are straight. Maybe you build a support for a butterfly. Good morning, Vajrashraddha. Maybe you folded your legs back. So it's really not about what you think you should do. It's about what is appropriate. And we're going to be sitting for a few minutes. So do make sure the shape is sustainable. So in terms of being conscious, I think a few of you will have this will resonate with you. Like, you know, practice, what we're doing here is a verb. It's not a noun, it's a verb. And personally, I think if anyone says, oh, come along on a weekend and everything will be sorted out. So whether that weekend is like a weekend of Ashtanga yoga, maybe a weekend of Kundalini yoga, maybe a weekend of ayahuasca, maybe a weekend of landmark or a weekend of intense meditation, whatever they're saying, whatever their brand is, this simply does not happen. There can be very much a kind of, what's it, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. We do some stuff, and then we go back into the rest of our lives, and oh my God, I'm back into the old patterns. So I had quite an insight for myself a couple of days ago when I was talking with some people, and I realized I was being very, what's the word? Big-headed. And it reminds me of Quincy Jones. So raise a hand if you're familiar with the work of Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones, there's this documentary on him. I think it's on Netflix. It's a brilliant documentary. And Quincy Jones came from an extremely tough place. And, when I was watching that, I was thinking, wow, so many other people in those tough places will not have made it. Will be dead, will be in prison, they will not have made it. Really messed up with drugs, they will not have made it. And Quincy Jones did make it, and his influence on modern music is enormous. He's written innumerable number ones. And Quincy Jones, he had this, and I was like, wow, he said it's important with creativity. So maybe you express your creativity through crocheting. Personally, I don't, but feel free to crochet. Maybe you express your creativity through painting. Like, say, if Rebecca asked me to paint something, I'd be like, my God, how do you paint? What's drawing? As much as, say, if Esther says, let's visualize, I'm like, oh my God, my brain's seized up. I can't visualize. But if you say, imagine, I'm kind of, okay, I get that. Personally, my creativity is around words and writing. And yeah, that's kind of a big fountain of creativity for me. But Quincy Jones said, it's important to be graceful with creativity. And then this was the words that really kind of resonated for me, and I didn't do a couple of days ago, Pillar. He said it's very important to be humble with success. So wherever you are, whether you're inside London, outside London, whether you're in the Somerset countryside or up in Manchester, wherever you are, just consciously arriving here. And maybe a way of consciously being here, just simply feel the good morning, Joe, good morning, Maxine. Just feel the connection of your base to the ground. So I'm sitting on a cushion, maybe you're sitting in a chair, maybe you have, as I said, your legs in front or your legs folded back or tucked in. Just take a few moments. Just feeling the base. Inevitably, we get distracted. That's what happens. So what you could do from the base, so of course there are different ways we can describe our base. We could talk in like maybe a chakra language. We could talk in, say, the language of energetic channels. Now bring your awareness to the crown of your head. Maybe actually you might like to touch, physically touch the crown of your head, whichever hand you prefer. So the crown of the head there's a point on the governor vessel, which is a meridian, and it's called 100 meeting points. So see if you might imagine there's a thread from the crown of the head to the sky. Bring that hand down. So the base, earth, crown of head to sky. And I do see our bodies as like these bridges between like earth and sky. You know, if we're too earthed, too much on the ground, then perhaps we don't really do much. Too yin. Equally, if we're too in the sky, then maybe we're running around all over the place and we're lacking the stability of the earth. So it's about finding this balance. So just in the last few moments of sitting here, for those who've just arrived, if you wish, you could come in on the chat bar and write your name, your location, and what you might call a pandemic plus that you consciously aspire to continue post-pandemic, because there will be a post-pandemic. And feeling our way into this body. Feeling our way into this body. And then from here, slowly, take your time, undoing your legs. Bring the feet to the front. So feet come to the front. So for those who recently arrived, I recommend you have plenty of stuff like blankets, yoga belts, or dressing gown belts, cushions, lots and lots of things. And what we're going to do from here, we're going to come into a posture where we're lying on our back, so close to the ground. So some of you will know this as constructive rest. So what we do in constructive rest, what I would like you to each do is to have a pillow below the head. So our heads are pillowed, yes, you can see me. Head is pillowed. Notice being conscious of how I place the feet. So feet flat to floor, knees are raised. So head is pillowed, feet are flat on the floor, the knees are raised. So I've come up to sitting simply because it's easier for me to talk while sitting. Because Gabriel's such a good student. I'm very impressed. So lying down, head is pillowed, feet are flat on the floor, knees are raised. Esther, I'm very impressed with your flexibility to squeeze yourself into it. It looks a very limited space. Exactly. Good test of your flexibility, Esther. So, constructive rest, head pillowed, knees raised, feet flat on floor. So as we go through the practice, the postures, definitely feel free to ask for advice. So the strategy for asking for advice is you come in on the chat bar and you keep it as short and succinct as you can. And just to my right, I've got a large projector screen, so I can see like the first line of what you, so rather than writing something fairly long, keep it short, like my left knee hurts, or this hurts my ankle, and then I can make some suggestions. So be free to ask for advice. Something I've been playing around with recently, and it kind of links to, for those who've recently turned up, I was talking at the beginning earlier on about masturbation. So it links to, you must do this, Lulu, you must do this. So letting go of masturbation, letting go, drop, don't avoid being a shouldist. So at least one person here might remember back in the day, I was a real dogmatist, but that's a long time ago. Slowly, over time, stuff shifts. So avoid being a shouldist, let go of masturbation. So we can get into more, let's call this free yoga. So free yoga means you're being attentive to what you find works well, as we did at the beginning of that sit. What works well for my body today? So we're just going to be here for another couple of minutes in constructive rest. It's a great pose for the lower back. And I know it doesn't necessarily look very funky on Instagram, but honestly, doing a pose like this can be very helpful for our bodies, and of course within our bodies, heart and mind. Can remind us of the necessity of rest. And actually, proper rest is so beneficial for our immune systems. And clearly these are times when we're conscious, very conscious around immunity. So constructive rest, body resting, just in the last minute. So of course you're breathing. In my opinion, it's the sole criteria to practice yoga, ability to breathe. You're breathing. Could you notice where you feel the breath in the body? So I know a few of you are familiar with the Goenka style Vipassana. We spend the first 3 days just trying to feel the breath around the upper lip, tip of nose. But some people naturally feel the breath more in like the back of the throat or in the chest, abdomen, diaphragm area. And some people are really, I can't feel the breathing. Just see if you could notice, where do you feel the breath, your breath, in your body? And then from here, we're going to do maybe another 3 poses staying on our back. So the first one we're going to do is Eye of the Needle. So just to kind of make life a little bit easier, let's all go the same way. So put your right foot over your left knee. So the left foot stays on the floor, please. The right foot is over the left knee. The left foot stays on the floor. And then see if you could gently engage that right foot. There's a lovely story from the Buddha's teachings of like a monk saying to the Buddha, like, how do you practice? Which I think is an essential question. And I find it deeply insightful that they were asking that question like 2,500 years ago, as much as we're asking that question now. And the Buddha's response to this monk, so I think this monk was a musician, Sona, as I remember his name was something along the lines, well, how do you string your instrument? So he's playing a stringed instrument. How do you string your instrument? If it's strung too soft, then there might be no sound. Equally, if it's strung too tight, they might snap. So kind of finding this balance point, so that right foot gently engaging, neither too tight nor too soft. And then we're going to be here for another couple of minutes. Give yourself the freedom if you wish, to make the stretch stronger. So a way of making the stretch stronger is you could thread the right hand in between the two thighs. You could hold your left thigh, as I think Esther is beautifully demonstrating, although I can't see your left foot, Esther, but I'm pretty sure from the look of it, you're putting your foot on something. Give me a thumbs up if that's what you, exactly. So Esther's either put her foot on a block or a bolster, her left foot, or maybe you've got substantial external mobility in that right hip, and you've drawn your right foot fairly close to your left armpit. Maybe. You know, we're each different. So using the poses as paths to help us reflect on difference. Each day is different. Each body is different. So poses as a path into this body. So as we come towards the last half a minute, could you notice whether that left foot is on the floor, whether the right foot's really close to the left armpit? Could you notice where do you feel the stretch strongest? So a bit similar to when we were trying to feel the breath. Where do you feel the stretch strongest? And then in the last few moments, just notice, so not judge, not review against the last time you did this pose, just notice the angle of the right foot, right thigh to the upper body. And now let's release. So bring right foot to floor. Take some moments, so both feet on the floor. Take some moments, it's almost like hearing the echo. A signal could be if the sensations, strong sensations persist, that might show the edge was too intense. So what we do in yin yoga is we prioritize time over intensity. Let's change sides. So left foot over right knee. Right foot staying on the floor. Left foot gently engaging, remembering that image from the Buddhist teachings of the stringed instrument, neither too tight nor too soft, the middle way. So eye of the needle is, I consider it to be a neglected yoga pose. People want something more like funky, like handstand, often, not always. Eye of the needle, often overlooked, neglected. But it's a great way to bring movement, external rotation into the hip, moving the body, and of course, the hip connects to our lower back, so could be helpful for the lower back. The back is stable, so that is another plus for the lower back. So again, coming into the last 2 minutes, so what we do in yin is the emphasis is on staying in the poses. So last 2 minutes, feel free to keep the right foot on the floor, to place the right foot on some support, or you thread the needle. One of my favorite films, my partner, a few of you know my partner says I have many favorites, but one of my favorite films, I think this is Spinal Tap. Actually, that's it, Spinal Tap. So raise a hand if anyone's seen Spinal Tap. It's slightly 20th century. Esther, you're too young to have seen Spinal Tap. So one of the scenes in Spinal Tap is where they turn the amps up to 11. So could we use that as an image for what we're doing as practitioners here today? So maybe in the faster forms of yoga, I love fast yoga. I've done many years of fast yoga. Admittedly, it's a lot less these days, but that's because next month I'm going to be 58. So faster yoga's got less. I still do it though. But in a faster form of yoga, we can turn the amp up to 11 because we know we're only going to be in the the pose for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Remember what I said on the first side. In yin yoga, we're in the poses for more like, so here's about 3-4 minutes, longer for other of the poses. So we're prioritizing the staying time over intensity. So half a minute more. As we did on the first side, could you just now notice where you feel this most? And be open to like, well, I'm not really feeling anything. That's a valid response. And then just noticing the angle of that left leg with the upper body. Because what I know for myself is eye of the needle clearly reveals my asymmetry of hips. Release. Bring both feet back flat to floor, please. So my right hip, I have more external rotation than my left hip. So you're all my witness to this. If anyone here has got perfectly symmetrical hips, I'll eat a yoga mat. So if anyone here says, listen, my hips are absolutely identical, right and left, same degrees of external, internal rotation, I'll eat a yoga mat. So bring the feet together, bring the knees together, please. Get your heels as close as you can to your hips. So I know we're all in these different spaces. So if you have space, reach the arms out wide. So inner feet together, inner knees together. If you have space, reach your arms out wide. I know not all of you have space. So if you do not have space, maybe you could do like cactus arms or maybe something, just so getting the arms a bit away from the upper body. And now shift your hips a few centimeters over to the left. So Esther, take your whole body over to the left. We're going to do reclining rotation, that's it. And now knees to the ground on the right side. So do what you can do in your space. We're each in an individual space. So knees on the ground. Feel free, of course, to use bolsters. Someone has come in and said, my hips are perfectly balanced. So, okay, John, I'll need to see the x-rays and the MRIs before I eat a yoga mat, because I'm not sure eating a yoga mat would be very good for me. So, reclining rotation, knees to right. Use what you wish to do to maybe soften the stretch. So I talked about bolsters, maybe blocks. Also, feel free, of course, to make the stretch stronger. Like often bring the knees closer to the right shoulder. Another way of making the stretch stronger is altering the angle of the left arm. So you could actively reach your left hand behind you if you wanted. But if that might feel in any way distinctly uncomfortable in the left shoulder, my advice is to bring the arm down. And then as we come into so we'll be here for another minute, maybe to make the stretch much stronger, you could wrap your left leg around your right leg. So that will make the stretch much stronger. So do what you need. So be conscious in today's body. Letting go of like, sometimes think, oh, if only I went to 300 yoga classes a week, then ABC. Let go of all that. It's like today's body, this morning's body. Let go of being down in the basement at the North London Buddhist Center. Let go of all of that. It's like today's body, the 2021 model. So just a few more moments, please. And then from here, Slowly bring your knees back up, please. And then replant the feet on the floor. Remember when we're in between the two sides of the needle, just taking a moment to, it's almost like hearing the echo. Feeling our way into the body. Remember what I said, if the strong sensations persist, that can be a sign of edge being exceeded. And we'll now change sides. So just a way of helping the lower back, you take your hips just literally 5 centimeters over to the right, and then the knees to the ground on the left side. So as much as our hips are asymmetrical, so one side will be more open than the other side. The same is true with the spine. And personally, I think that most people have some level of scoliosis. I certainly have scoliosis. And one of the revelations for my scoliosis was in postures like headstand. Thinking, wow, I'm a bit wonky here. So you could be noticing for yourself, are you feeling more open this side? Less open? Are you able to, so remember all those points on the first side, feel free to use bolsters, blocks. Can you bring your knees closer to the left shoulder? Or is that more of a strain? So again, coming back to this contrast between faster forms of yoga and this slower yoga. So it's definitely not that one is better than the other. It's all about balance. And to me, one of the great teachings of the pandemic is this clear exposing of a world, human society out of balance. But if it's a strain, so sure, in a fast yoga, we can get away with it to some extent. But here, as we stay and stay and stay, so we're coming towards the last half minute, maybe you might wish to wrap, so this side would be your right leg around your left leg, staying. If it's a strain, then staying, it's going to feel like torture yoga. Run a practice that might alleviate some of our anxieties, might help us to be more conscious. So half a minute more, please. Do what you need to do. So now from here, slowly ease your way up. And then what we're going to do next, we're going to do a posture where we're lying flat on the floor. So Lulu, I wonder if you need, because we're going to take the arms over our head. So if you got, so you need a good space behind you. So flat on the floor, heels, back of knees, back of body. And then initially what you could do is hold your elbows. I'm so impressed by your flexibility, Esther. Holding your elbows. Esther, just that's it. Legs flat. So, Claire, can you get your legs flat on the floor? Have you got space? Yeah, that's it. Great. So legs flat on the floor. If you have any soreness in your lower back, or if a person's pregnant, I would advise you to keep hold of your elbows. Otherwise, reach the arms behind you and then hold your left wrist with your right hand. So you're very welcome to hold your elbows, or you're holding your left wrist with your right hand. So this is a posture in yin yoga that's called banana asana. We're going to make our bodies into a banana. Sometimes people call this crescent moon. So holding either the elbows or the left wrist with the right hand. Now take the hands, the elbows, the shoulders, over to your right, over to your right. So side bending, but lying flat on the floor, over to the right. And then again, if there's any soreness in your lower back, for persons pregnant, my advice would be to keep the legs as they are. Otherwise, take your legs also over to the right. And then what you could do, there are different ways of doing this. What I personally do, having taken my legs over to my right, is I now take my right ankle over my left ankle. So side bending. So stretching all along the left side of the body. So if anyone's a bit confused, do feel free to ask for advice. So side bending. So this is called banana asana because you look like a banana. And I used to attempt to make some joke about Brexit, but I've given up. But some of you know our beloved Prime Minister. When was it? It was in the 1990s when he was, so he's arguably the Prime Minister who's lied the most in the entire history of this country. But as an example of one of his innumerable lies in the 1990s when he was a journalist in Brussels, he said the EU were going to impose straight bananas on us plucky UK types. So yet another lie from Boris. So from here, sorry, moving on from Boris, from here, straighten your bananas, come back into the center, listening to the echo. Use the first side to inform the second side. So you're very welcome to hold your elbows. Also this side, you'd be holding your right wrist with your left hand. So Rebecca, try just holding your elbows. Hold your elbows. Yes, you're right. It is strong in the shoulders. So right wrist with left hand, or you're holding the elbows. And now going over to the left. And then take a moment to reflect, assess your data. What's the evidence of this experience? So as at least one of you is experiencing, the evidence of this experience is it's fairly strong in the shoulders. So adjust accordingly. Please adjust accordingly. There are endless options. So maybe you've also taken your legs over to the left. If you have, my preference is putting my left ankle over my right ankle. So if you ever go to a yoga class and you go up to the teacher and you say, teacher, could you give me an option for this pose? And the teacher says, there are no options. Honestly, I'm being really sincere. Leave. That's the option. Leave as soon as possible. In fact, I would leave the moment they say that. Because I really believe it's an unsafe environment to be in when the person who is guiding the class does not have the ability to understand the endless variations and the vast range of individuality. So we're in the last minute. So really, please be careful about your shoulders. Please be careful about your lower back. And then equally, move as much as we can. Because movement is an incredible medicine. Movement's very much part of us self-care, I could say. So I think self-care, there are many ways of looking after ourselves, and movement is definitely one of them. And then from here, slowly let's straighten our bananas. And then we're going to do one more pose staying on our backs. So some of you would know this as Supta Baddha Konasana or reclining butterfly. What we do is we bring the soles of our feet together and then we let our knees fall out wide. So feel free to use props below your knees, bolsters, bricks. Feel free to have your legs straight. So do what you need to do. And then what we're going to, and I would recommend you have your hands close to your hips, run over the head. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do a breathing exercise. I know some of you are familiar with this exercise. It's called coherent breath. If you're doing this exercise and you begin to feel physically, emotionally uncomfortable, let go of the exercise. Prioritize yourself, so you as the practitioner, over the exercise. What we do in coherent breathing, so these days, this is the only breathing practice I do for myself in my own practice. We look to equalize the in-breath and the out-breath. So I'm reasonably confident no one here is 7 foot tall. If you are 7 foot tall, then raise a hand. But I'm pretty sure no one here is 7 foot tall. Quite possibly, though, someone might be closer to 5 foot than 7 foot. Because this 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, it's a generalized instruction. So if someone here was 5 foot, then their breathing might be more like 5 seconds. Simply because your lung capacity is a bit less. As much as if someone's 7 foot, it might be slower. But let's just do it for 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Remember, if it feels uncomfortable, straining for you, let go of the technique. So wherever you are, let's all be breathing together. So right now, breathing in, please. And then breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. In and out through the nose, please. Breathing in without strain. Breathing out, so a nose breathing practice. Breathing in. Breathing out. 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 Breathing in. So as best as you can, maintaining that pattern of breathing. So breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose. Our nose is being our own antiviral units. This way of, this coherent breath, great way of almost like stabilizing physiologically, psychologically in the body. So taking your time from here, because we've been lying on our backs for a long time, a suggestion is you could bring your hands to your knees and let's just take a few breaths coming back into constructive rest. So use your hands to help if you wish. So both feet flat on the floor, please. Constructive rest. And then again, the noticing. Notice right nostril, left nostril. Because one will be more active than the other. On rare occasion, they might be perfectly balanced, but it's a general rule. One is more active than the other. Sometimes the difference is so slight to be imperceptible. Sometimes the difference is very obvious. So for myself, I'm sitting up and it feels like my right nostril is more active. So if you can detect the difference, now please roll to the side of the more active nostril. So say if it's your right nostril, you'd roll to your right. If it's your left nostril, you roll to your left. If the difference is imperceptible, then roll whichever way you wish to roll. So the reason to roll, say if your right nostril is more active, rolling onto the right will put a little bit of pressure on that right side of the body, which might be helpful towards balancing the nostrils. And then from here, take your time. Come up to sitting. And then once you've arrived at sitting, if possible, sit on something. So I've got a yoga block here or a book. John, I was having happy memories of the North London Buddhist Centre. So sitting on something. So back in the North London Buddhist Centre, we had lots of stuff down in that basement. So sitting on something, if you've got something to sit on. So legs in front. So Claire, legs in front, please. And then have your right leg in front. So the legs are crossed. And then remember that conversation between the Buddha and Sona. So the feet in a little bit of flexion. If doing this causes you discomfort for your knees, then adjust. Let me actually show you a couple of ways that could be really helpful. So Claire, I wonder if you might, You might have seen these ways before, but like say taking a blanket, rolled up blanket, as soon as I do that, I can feel some release, some support. So you're very welcome to do that. Another way, so of course you could do them all if you wanted. Another way would be like you could have the rolled up blanket there, and then you could take another blanket. One of the big pluses at home is I'm assuming you've got blankets and towels and duvets to hand. Feel free, as Lulu is beautifully demonstrating, to put on your fluffy top. So another way is putting the blanket like this. So, and then also if the knees are some distance from the ground, then maybe you kind of prop the knees like something like this. So the knees, if your knees are quite high up, prioritize support, like propping the knees. So right leg's in front. And then bring the left hand to your right thigh. Left hand to right thigh. Raise the right hand to the sky. So right hand up, lengthen up. So use the left hand as a lever against that right thigh. We're going to do, so John, right hand up, that's it. We're going to do a rotation. Remember from earlier, remember that point at the crown of the head, the 100 meeting points. See if you can be lifting up. Remember the thread to the sky from the head. Keep that lifting up as you exhale, bring the right hand behind you. So some will definitely benefit from having, say, a support, like a brick or a block between the hand and the ground. You're looking over the right shoulder. So the left arm is a strong lever. And then as a way to encourage the rotation, which isn't so available when we rotate as we did a little bit earlier lying on our backs, this idea of becoming longer. So that thread from the crown of the head to the sky lifting up, because by being longer, that actually gives us more space for the rotation. So anatomically, the rotation coming mainly from the middle of the back, the mid-spine. And then from here, keep the levers still. So that's the left hand and the right hand, the left arm and the right arm. Very slowly with an inhale, just turn your head. Look over the left shoulder. Inhale, look over the left shoulder. Just see how far around you can turn your head. And then exhale, very slowly, take the head all the way around, look over the right shoulder. Inhale, slowly. See how slowly you can turn your head. Look over the left shoulder. Exhale, very slowly, looking over the right shoulder. One more time. Inhale, turning the head, looking over the left shoulder. And then exhale to center. So as you come to center, what we're going to do now, we're going to do a lateral movement of the spine. So the left, so lateral, we also did lateral when we were doing banana, but we're now doing sitting up. So left hand to the ground. Let's say about 20 or 30 centimeters away from the left hip. Right hand staying down. Sorry, I'm just looking outside. I think some people are about to start fly tipping in the back garden. I might, so the right hand on the right hip, fingers to the floor of the left hand, not hand flat to floor, fingertips to floor. And then maybe you keep the right hand staying down, or maybe the right hand comes to the back of the head, or maybe the right arm reaches over. So remembering from earlier, one of you talked about feeling a stretch quite strongly in your shoulder. So in which case, you could keep the right hand down. So Lulu, I wonder about taking your left hand a little bit further away. Your left hand, that's it, yeah. And then definitely feel free to keep the right hand on the right hip, maybe the right hand holding the back of the head, or maybe the right arm reaching over. So a lateral stretch of the spine. as we were doing in the banana pose. So plenty of options. And remember, feel free to ask for advice, as at least 2 of you have already done so. So moving our bodies in different ways. So if someone says to me, all I do is yin yoga, I'll tell them to go and do some kundalini yoga or go for a run across Hampstead Heath. Moving our body in different ways. So rotation of spine, lateral stretch of spine. So from here, inhale, come to center, and then bring the right hand onto your right shoulder blade. So options. We might call this prop option yoga. Plenty of props, plenty of options. Maybe the left hand stays down. Maybe the left hand comes onto the right elbow. Maybe you have the mobility to bring the left arm around and behind and take that hand up. And of course, feel free to use belts or supports. So doing what you need to do. That's it, Claire. Great. Very welcome to use belts. So whether the left hand has stayed down or whether the left hand is binding or you're somewhere in between those places, could we, just in the last half a minute or so, could you explore taking the right elbow back, almost like away from the head, towards the wall behind you? We spend a lot of time looking at small screens. There's at least 2 of us here who are almost like we're pre-internet. Wow, pre-internet. Pre all these, the dictatorship of the small screens. And looking at small screens has a consequence, has a major physical consequence on our shoulders, on our neck. So doing something like this can be helpful. Also remember when we're turning our head in that rotation. And then exhale, release. So if you can, important word in yoga teaching, if you can, keeping the legs as they are. I know a few of you do have sandbags. A few of you have cushions. Maybe a few of you, because what we're going to explore is lifting something above the head. So whether it's a sandbag, and give yourself permission to keep the hands down. So let go of, oh, this is what I should do. The teacher's told me to do this. This is what I must do. So feel free also just to raise your arms. You don't have to have, so be careful with your shoulders. So you can raise your yoga mat, your beautifully colored yoga mat. So lifting something above your head. You know, if you've lifted something like a sandbag or something like heavy and hard, it adds that frisson of danger. Because if you drop it, you might have to go to hospital, and like now is not the time to go to hospitals. So just a few more moments. Doing this is a way of reminding ourselves about the need for balance, the necessity to become better balanced, because by being better balanced, sustainable, and this is something I am a strong believer in, both sustainability of self and also sustainability of society. So I'll connect, one of the wonderful things about Buddhafield is this connection to all that's around us, this emphasis on sustainability. So now, if you raise something above your head, bring that down, lean back into the hands, and change across the legs. So do reflect. Like, I think one of the most important tests for us as practitioners is that we can walk away afterwards. So maybe you think, wow, you know, look, I'm like so flexible, isn't this fantastic? And then afterwards you're like, oh my God, what have I done? So adjust accordingly. We're going to do the same sequence with the left leg in front. So if it's feeling too much for your knees, you could always do something like butterfly and get it supported. We're using blankets. So the right hand now, this is the lever. Strong lever, right hand against the left thigh. Raise the left hand to the sky. Left hand. So left hand lifting up. That's it. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen from the left hip to left hand. Then as you exhale, take that hand behind you. So left hand now behind you. So remember what I said on the first side about feel free to have some support if you wish. So feel free to be supported. So looking over the left shoulder, looking over that left shoulder, using that right arm as the lever. So right arm is lever, looking over left shoulder. Remember that point at the crown of the head, lifting up. And actually, some of you all know the body tapping, and tapping that particular point, the 100 meeting points, can be a way to lift up the energy. So say if you're feeling a bit flat, I woke up this morning feeling a bit grumpy, and then that shifted, but right at the top of the head can be a way of lifting up the energy. So from here, levers stay still. So right hand, left hand stay still. Going to do the same movement of the head. So inhale, just very slowly turn the head, look over the right shoulder. Exhale, slowly, 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 slowly. Turn the head, look over the left shoulder. Inhale. Slowly, right shoulder. Exhale. Back over the left. Inhale. Slowly looking over the right shoulder. One more time. Exhale. Back over the left shoulder. Inhale to the right shoulder, and then exhale to center. So from center, we're going to do the lateral movement. Just coming back to that moving of the head. So I know some of you will be familiar with like the vagus nerve and also the phrenic nerve. And the phrenic nerve connects to, what's it, C3, C4, C5 in the neck. Phrenic nerve is links to the diaphragm, very important nerve for our breathing. So, of course, breathing is essential. Fingertips of the right hand down. Left hand could rest on the left hip. Apparently, medical students, they learn some rhythm of something like C3, C4, C5 keeps the diaphragm alive. So that's the phrenic nerve. So just that moving of the head could be helpful for the functioning of both the phrenic nerve and also the vagus nerve. So they're linked to the nervous systems. So maybe the left hand stays down. Maybe the left hand holds the back of the head. Or maybe, so being attentive to your shoulders. So they are your shoulders, they're not my shoulders. So conscious, be conscious. So those three options. Lateral stretch. So focus on keeping your left hip down. So we want to keep the hips level. So Claire, I wonder if you could take the right hand a little bit further away, just a little bit. That's it. Great. And also Rebecca, I wonder if you could take your right, it's hard for me to see, but if you could take your right hand just a little bit further away. So lengthening all along the left side of the body. And then from here, inhale, come to center. Exhale, bring the left hand to the left shoulder blade. So pause. Take a moment, reflect. So it's like examining our data. Stay as you are, like right hand staying down, or right hand to the elbow. Or maybe there is that possibility of bringing the right arm around. So just to illustrate, when I was talking about the screens and life on screens, you know, when we're using a screen, we put our mid upper back into a kind of slight hunch. What some of you know as kyphosis, slight hunch. And the shoulders are closing in towards the chest, and this all get, and then This, of course, has consequences for our ability to breathe. So if the shoulders are hardening, closing into the center of the chest, then it makes it harder for us to breathe. And if it's harder for us to breathe, so remember that exercise we did earlier, I highly recommend that exercise. If you've not come across it before, there's a wonderful book about it, very well written, by James Nestor, called Breath, as I remember. Yes. And if you're interested, I wrote an article about it, inspired by James Nestor's book, that's up on my website. So our ability to breathe has repercussions on our well-being. Of course, it's not rocket science. So just doing a posture like this might be helpful for our breath. So just in the last few months, could you take that left elbow back a little bit? Is that possible? Left elbow going back. I know it's different, these two sides. This is one of these poses that clearly reveals asymmetry. Remember when we did I Have the Needle, I said, oh, that's really showed my asymmetry, and then release. So we're going to do the same thing, this lifting of a weight above your head. So you can like think, well, how was it on the first side for me? And give yourself, remember, free yoga. You know, I'm a strong believer in what you might describe as critical consciousness, rather than circles of certainty. So these are terms from an educationalist, and circles of certainty is like the guru model. So the guru says, do this, and we just do it. Whoever the guru might be. So you could keep your hands down, you could hold something hefty like a sandbag, or Lulu's going for the bolster option. That's a nice option, Lulu. But then Lulu, the true test is, can you smile while you're lifting it above? So if you can't smile, if I say, Lulu's shaking, if I say smile and you're like, I can't smile. Is that a sandbag, Kathy? Give me a, are you shaking your head or nodding your head? I think it looks, so a great way of exercising the upper body. This is honestly something I do in my own practice. And these days, in the last few years, I've started increasingly doing like, it's almost like weights, like sandbags above my head for a few minutes. I also hold my arms out parallel to the ground, holding yoga bricks. It looks easy, but you try doing it for more than 30 seconds and it's like, wow, that's quite strong. And then bring this down, release, take your time. I remember once back in my youth, I had to stand like this for something like an hour and a quarter. It was like agony. I blame the Italian police. So moving on from the Italian police. So bring your legs out in front of you. Just take a few moments, leaning back. So releasing. So that was external rotation of the hips, like what we're doing on the needle, releasing. And then what we're going to do next, we're going to look at the possibility of folding forwards. So just kind of look at some of the options. So if a person's pregnant, they keep their legs apart like this, just giving yourself space. You're most welcome to say, sit on a block. Let me come in profile. So the key here is to get a tilt. This is crucial. You must have a tilt. If you're like this, another great option, I know some of you have done loads of yoga. So if you've never seen this option before, I would advise give it a go, just for the sake of doing it in your own practice. So another option is holding your elbows. And I was teaching it, and I learned so much from people coming along to classes, and I was teaching this, and someone said, actually, I can't reach my elbows. I've not thought of that. And he said, I hold my wrist. I was like, that's a great option. So you could hold your wrist, hold your elbows. Another option, of course, is using a belt. So you'd have a light belt like this. I know some of you have a lot of hamstring length. So maybe you're folding fairly far forward. So feel free to support your heads with bolsters. Feel free, if you wish, to wrap your throat around your ankles. If this feels in any way too strong for your back, so Claire, I wonder about sitting on something, maybe. Just give yourself a little bit more lift. So do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. And then, as a suggestion, you could close your eyes. Closing your eyes. So remembering the theme for this Butterfield. So we're now in the theme, I don't want to say element of consciousness. That's the thing, consciousness. And this is a poem by Julie Frembacher called A Cure for It All. Go gently today, don't hurry or think about the next thing. Walk with the quiet trees. Can you believe how brave they are? How kind? Blow kisses at yourself in the mirror, especially when you think you've messed up. Praise fresh air, clean water, good dogs. Spin something from joy. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe until you feel the sun rises in your veins. Breathe until you stop needing anything to be different. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe until you feel the sun rises in your veins. Breathe until you stop needing anything to be different. So being conscious, and yes, we get distracted. Being conscious of your body as best as you can right now. So if the stretch is beginning to feel a little bit too strong, then ease your edge. So taking control of your practice. Or maybe just coming towards the last minute. Maybe you think, oh, I'm comfortable, I can stay as I am. Or maybe you could fall further forward. Maybe. Many maybes. Plenty of options. Whatever you've decided to do, whether it's that easing or continuing or folding a little bit further forwards, one more minute being still, please. Stillness. So now from here, slowly, take your time, slowly emerging, rising up. Once you've arisen, take some moments releasing. So after going forwards, releasing, going back, hands behind you. If you wish, maybe you lift your head, you look up, as long as that feels allowed by your neck, looking up. So just a little bit of back extension, front body stretched to balance out that forward bending. and then come to center. So what we're going to do now, we're going to do the final pose. So personally, I'm trying to train myself to drop the word Shavasana and just use the word final pose. So I can see some wonderful sofas behind you. So astronaut, I don't know if you've done this before, Rebecca, astronaut on a sofa. It's fantastic. So definitely feel free to do that. Feel free to take your legs up the wall. If anyone here has two bolsters, Esther, have you got two bolsters? Okay. So these are prone. Has anyone here got two bolsters? Raise a hand if anyone here's got two bolsters. Okay. I won't show that then. Another great pose, if you've got, say, 3 yoga blocks, but you need bricks or is supported lung extension. So we're lying down. All I would like you to make sure you have something below your knees. So if you've got 2 bricks and say 3 blocks or a bolster or some cushions, and you just have a few centimeters in between the bricks and in between the bricks themselves, and also the bricks and the blocks, and then you lie down like so. Oh, it feels so good. So that's what I want you to find, a shape where you can be like, oh, that feels good. So finding that shape, so legs up the wall, as yes, Rebecca has become an astronaut. Rebecca is going into outer space, doing, oh, and Rebecca, one very slight tiny thing, but I'm not sure, maybe, if you've got a little blanket, maybe putting it under your head. If you got, but not that cushion to your right, that'd be too much. If anyone's got eye pillows, feel free to cover the eyes. So Katie, wriggle your bottom towards the sofa. That's it. So get as much as you can of your legs on the sofa. That's good. Yeah, great. So Katie, you too are an astronaut. So, and then I'm happy, Katie, you do what you wish with your hands. I would tend to suggest that yeah, exactly. So a shape where you feel supported, do definitely feel free to ask for advice. How's that feel for you, Claire? Good. Shape where you feel supported. A shape where you can release. So remember that point about eye pillows. Remember that point about, oh, Lulu, you've become an astronaut as well. Did you try it? What have you got? I can't really see what you got. So a shape where you're supported. A shape where you can release. And something I only recently realized was that within release, there is ease. So being free to stay just as you are, if you wish. If you're going to begin moving, take your time, making the movement soft, quite gentle, something perhaps as subtle as like simply the thumbs and the index fingers touching. Perhaps a little bit of easing the head from side to side, or some toe wriggling. If you're lying on the floor and you're moving up, you could bend your knees, rest the feet on a bolster or flat on the floor. If you're in the astronaut pose, you might, if you're coming out of that place, you might rest the feet on the edge of the sofa. Take a moment or two to consciously slowing down. And then bringing the knees into the chest. And let's ease over to the left side. So honoring the fact this is a yin yoga practice, onto the left side. Pillow your head, whether it's with the left arm or hands in prayer position or a handy cushion. Knees towards chest, head is pillowed. If you can, keeping the eyes closed, just take a moment or two to reflect. Just kind of noticing how you're doing right now. And maybe you might contrast that to how you were doing when we started. Remember when we sat at the start, just kind of the checking in. How are you doing right now? And then from here, slowly taking your time, come up to center, to sitting. Sit in whichever way works for you personally. Maybe your preference is for your hands to be down. Perhaps you have the hands like so, or somewhere on your body. Maybe you close the eyes, allow the chin, so like the chin towards the chest, almost like a symbol of connection. So in terms of consciousness, a great exercise is looking at what drains us and what sustains us. So personally, something that drains me is Facebook. I loathe Facebook. Something that sustains me is porridge in the morning, tree hugging. I'm a huge fan of hugging trees. So this is just a suggestion. It's like taking our consciousness into our daily lives. It's like, I'm just kind of pondering what drains me. Talking about what drains me, I know some of you have seen this film, Super Size Me, Morgan Spurlock, where he spent, I can't remember this month or 3 months. I know at least one of you is not a fan of McDonald's, nor me. He spent at least a month just eating McDonald's. And when they said, do you want to supersize? He'd say yes. And then after that month or 3 months, he got really sick, unsurprisingly. What drains and what sustains? So being conscious of that, and then we can consciously lessen the draining and encourage the sustaining. So if the eyes are closed, gently raise the eyelids, and then eventually raise the head. So lovely seeing you all. So thank you for being here. I have a monthly newsletter. So if you'd like to receive my newsletter with information on like classes and workshops, and also my thoughts on the world, which might not be to everyone's taste, but if you'd like to receive my newsletter, you can come in on the chat bar, leave your email address, or also do it to my website. So what's my website? Imaginatively called Yoga with Norman. So thank you, John. Lovely seeing you, John.